Man a man. Man must stand up like man. Man must act like man. Man must behave like man. Man must take decision like man. Eh? You weak jellyback. Oh, Jesus have mercy. Me not deal with jellyback man. Me love man. We are man. We stand up like man. We talk like man. We act like man. We behave like man. Man a man. Elders, get up. Stand up like man. Lord Jesus have mercy. Somebody had trouble me this morning. Somebody had trouble me this morning.
Somebody had trouble me, may not be morning, but them had trouble me. Yes, I want to say hello to everyone, all of you joining me today on Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy, and with the internet, that is the thing before me. I am just going to turn off some of the internet that I have on the system and hope that I don't have too much trouble. So bear with me. Right. So, welcome everyone. How are you all doing since last I heard from you? Well, yes, tell me in the comment section, please. Tell me in the comment section. Now, you're hearing me very well, I take it. Everything today. But I certainly will be talking about one and two little something that I believe perhaps nobody else has yet noticed. And I want to start with let me start with the allegation itself, because the allegation, in my mind, is very, very important in the great scheme of things. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, Clinton Cole. And I see Dennis Richardson. Hi, Sasha. Arlene Perrin. How you doing, my darling? And then there's Chief of Staff. Hey, how you doing? Maxine Anderson. Beverly Oliver. Then there's Brooke Chen. Hi, Brooke. I think maybe the first time seeing you. Welcome. David Freighter. Where have you been, man? Long time no see. Nivek, first time seeing you. And then there is Yvonne Gordon, Brainworks Clever. Yes, man, Brainwork Coffee Clever. And Janet Ellis. You were the first to comment. Hello and welcome to Jamaica 411. And I will never hear the end of it if I never big up Joni. For Joni ever keep me company, you know. Yes, she has been with me for a very long time. And then there is Jeffrey, Courtney McGregor, and Nicole Wallace. Welcome, everyone. So let us turn our attention. And please, everybody, remember the ropes. You're going to like up the video, right? And share. Now, the allegations, very, very important. And it began by saying, by way of an anonymous electronic mail received by the Director of Information and Complaints on May 31, 2021. Make a note of that date, please, very important. It was alleged. Now, everyone would recall by now that the person at the Integrity Commission that is so now at that time in May 31, 2021, that person was Craig Beresford. He is now the executive director of the Integrity Commission. At the time, in May of 2021, Panton, yes, you'll hear Karen call him Comrade Panton. I'm sure he won't mind, but he was the chairman of the board, right? And Greg Christie was the executive director. And of course, the person that was doing the investigation at the time still remains Kevon Stevenson. And is a man who is an investigator, him and him team, and very incurious, that's all me have to say, very incurious. Because one thing about being an investigator is that it is required that you must have a curious mind. When people tell you things, right, you must make a note of it and go check it out, because you want to know if what you're being told is the truth or somebody is trying to pull the wool over your eyes for a reason best known to them. It doesn't matter one way or another whether or not you know why them would be lying. Don't matter, right? All you need to do is verify everything that you've heard. Now, this allegation came by way of somebody setting up an email address without any way to link a name to that email address. That's why they call it anonymous. And then they sent this communication to the Integrity Commission. And what it said, and they are quoting from the message, I suppose. And I should tell you from now, when I read it, it seems to me that this was itself an extract from an email of a conversation between two persons. Either the person who sent that email was the one who eventually created this fake, or this, yes, we would call it a email address, and send the information to the Integrity Commission, or it could be that somebody somewhere got hold of this email and send it to the Integrity Commission. I don't believe it was a WhatsApp message, even though it's possible, because there is no to and fro. There is no corresponding message of what it was the person that this was sent to said. And let me tell you why. Let me read it for you. So we already know that the information, this was not a complaint. A complaint is when you direct whatever you're saying to the Integrity Commission. Dear so and so, I write to you to inform you about something that I think now go and write and requires investigation. That's a complaint. This one was not a complaint. It was something that was sent to them. So it falls into the category of information. And it's important to make the difference, right? Now, this was what was sent to them. And they're quoting from the email that was sent to them. Firearm dealer. This is a conversation now. Firearm dealer John Elliott gun shop was shut down for numerous months, but miraculously reopened after John paid a hefty $500,000, some under the table, to have it reopened. So the first thing that is being alleged here is that John had paid a bribe to somebody in the FLA in order to get his gun shop reopened after they close it, right? And you're going to learn something very startling about this investigation into that. So that was what was said. The next thing was, listen to this, and this is how I know it was a conversation between two persons. At B, it says, as long as you, Carter, so they were speaking to somebody called Carter, as long as you, Carter, get your monetary kickback, you don't care who Shane screws over. You are targeting Mr. Brown. Now, Kent wasn't there. I don't know why they put it there. You are targeting Mr. Brown because he didn't give Ellsworth Cullum the $2 million that he tried to shake him down. Here is another allegation. You would be, in this case, the FLA, Firearm License Authority. You are targeting Mr. Brown because somebody named Ellsworth Cullum did a try extort $2 million out of him, and he refused to pay. So now they are saying that the FLA are take step on the man, right? Any dealer who doesn't come out of pocket, your harassment is non-stop. You and Letine Allen audit Mr. Brown and can never find anything. And the next thing that them allege, the public notice put out by the FLA on April 26, 2021, saying that guns at the FLA for 5 years plus will be destroyed. It's a grand play. It's a grand ploy to cover up the fact, right? To cover up the fact that I'm trying to get this sorted, that numerous guns are missing. So the FLA had put out a notice in April of 2021 saying that they're going to be destroying any guns that them have in their possession for more than 5 years. So anybody who left them gun with them and want it back better run come. That would have been the purpose. So this person is saying that the destruction of the guns is a grand ploy to cover up the fact that numerous guns are missing from the vaults of the FLA. Vaults, not one, vaults. We have numerous guns and thousands of bullets missing. Now, would almost seem as if it is somebody from within the FLA that was writing to Carter, whoever that is. Now, here is something very. Let me see, make sure everybody hearing me. Yes, sexy. Hi, sexy. How are you? Hey, Winston. No, man. What about try hide that a nice comment for? Here is something that is very startling. Despite the fact that the name Carter was mentioned, not one word was mentioned in the integrity report, investigation report of anybody named Carter. There was no mention in the report itself. Outside of the allegation, there was no mention of Carter. They did not tell us who this Carter was. Did they go and speak to Carter to try and find out who was it that wrote in this email? None of that was in the report. And yet here is Carter named Prims up. Carter himself or herself being accused of taking kickback. So how it is we never hear anything about this Carter in the report? Well, since they did not tell us who Carter was, we had to go and do our own research. So let me go to here, not the photo, yes, and then we private that. Now, this is the allegation. So who is Carter? We are looking here at the ministry paper, number whatever of 2020, and it speaks to, it's a cabinet agenda issues, and it's a house is asked to note the following matters which were considered by the cabinet at the meeting held on the 14th of December 2020. And what was part of the cabinet meeting? Board appointments. So let us now look and see who was appointed to the board of the FLA. As you can see at the top, Colonel Audley Carter, Colonel Audley Carter, retired, a JDF high-ranking officer, right? He was appointed chairman of the board in December 14, 2020. For 3 years, he and the other members, which meant that their appointment would expire on the 13th of December 2023. So that is the Carter I believe that this individual was talking to. So make we now go back to the allegation, right? And see what we can discover. Now I want you to pay attention to the fact that the individual did not refer to this high-ranking military officer as colonel. Like a doctor, the military officers who are of, what they call them, gazetted. They carry their title to them grave, right? So he's Colonel Carter. He's no longer a Mr. Carter. He have a title now as Colonel. But notice that this person referred to Mr. Brown, Kent Brown, as Mr. Brown. But when he was talking to Carter, he referred to him as Carter, not Mr. Carter, not Audley, not Colonel Carter, but simply Carter. That seems to be very, very familiar. Like these persons were moving in the same crowd, and him could call him Carter and Carter not be offended. Are you getting me? Now, when they refer to as long as you, Carter, get your monetary kickback, you don't care who Shane screws over. So he's referring to Shane Daly, who is the CEO of the FLA, as Shane, Colonel Carter as Carter, but Mr. Brown, Mr. Kent Brown as Mr. Brown. Now, how do we know that it is not Kent Brown that wrote this email? Because the email said you are targeting Mr. Kent Brown, Mr. Brown, right? And then at the top, at A, it said firearm dealer John Elliott, who eventually died, gun shop was shut down. So we know it was not John Elliott either. So this clearly is a third party. And since they're referring to Mr. Brown as Mr. Brown and not Kent, right? What I think is going on here is that Mr. Brown found himself in some hot waters and his license was in jeopardy, as you'll see shortly. And so he was trying to get the FLA to see things his way. It seems to me that what happened here was that Mr. Brown contacted somebody, and I noticed that in the appendices, Mr. Darling referred to these dealers when they do things where they're not supposed to do, right? An investigation reach them close. What them do is try to solicit the attention of parliamentarians to see if them can abort the investigation. I don't know if Mr. Darling was dropping a hint, but that was what he said. So this, I believe, that Brown's appeal to somebody who is so familiar with Colonel Carter that him can refer to him as Carter, as if there were some kind of schoolmate, because me know in schools you call people by their last name. And in the army, I think, and in the police, they might refer to people by their last name only. John, or Johnson, so and so and so. Smith, so and so and so, not referring to the first name, right? These may be large brothers. I don't know, but him feel familiar enough to be referring to the big colonel as Carter. You see where I'm going with this? Now, having appealed to this individual, whoever the hell that is, it appears as though there was a discussion going on between the colonel and the individual who wrote this. And when the colonel was not giving him, the time of day that he wanted, the frustration was what you were hearing. Firearm dealer John Elliott's gun shop, why am I saying gunshot? Gun shop was shut down for numerous months, but miraculously reopened after John paid a hefty 500,000 sum under the table. And then him accused Colonel Carter, of taking kickback. And as long as fee money safe, him no business what Shane is doing. That's what he said. And then he went on to make, or she, an accusation. This seems to me to be more like a him. You are targeting Mr. Brown because he didn't give Ellsworth Column the $2 million that he was looking, right? And then he went on to say that this is not something that is peculiar to Mr. Brown. Any dealer who refuse to pay uno when uno come asking for money, uno harass them non-stop. right? Then they mention Letine Allen. Letine Allen is a female. She is a Miss Letine Allen. And look at how them class her, right? You and Letine Allen audit Mr. Brown and can never find anything. Well, guess what? That is not true. So Mr. Brown would have lied to this person and told him that these guys are harassing him. This is what he would have told him, I am in business from 2010, right? All of a sudden, then do an audit. And then after them do the audit, me get this call from Ellsworth Column. I tell me say me fi pay 2 million. Me tell him too bad than running. And then here it is now that them come and audit me again and harass me and do all kind of things and want cancel my license because I never pay up. He also made the allegation that he wrote to the Observer in 2018, mostly criticizing the FLA, and this is part of the plot, right, to get him. That is his argument. So this individual who wrote this to Colonel Carter needs to be known. And for the life of me, I cannot imagine why the Integrity Commission did not interview Colonel Carter and ask him, who was it that sent you this email? Who was it that you were talking to? Them talking to you, you are targeting Mr. Brown. As long as you, Carter, get your monetary kickback, you don't care what she gonna do, right? Why would they not want to find out who this individual is? Because this individual is somebody with information. You want to know why I'm say that the good colonel is getting monetary kickback, right? Because it is not only Ellsworth Column that was being accused here in this allegation. The colonel was being accused too. You follow me? So this is where the conversation begins with this and the fact that the Integrity Commission appears not to have done any interview, because if they had asked Colonel Carter, who was it that wrote him this letter, and they did not put that in the Integrity Commission report that was tabled in the Parliament, the question would be why? But even bigger, how is it that it never occurred to them that Colonel Carter should be interviewed to find out who is this person that wrote in this letter making all these allegations? Why would you not want to interview them? Can you tell me? Tell me in the comment section. Why is it that they would not want to interview? Oh, hello, Beverly Clark. Why would they not want to interview Colonel Carter to find out who wrote it? Because Colonel Carter must know. I mean, it's not every day somebody going to accuse you, a big, respectable military man, of getting kickback. Who is so formal and familiar to be calling you Carter? Who? This is one of the flaws that I found in this Integrity Commission's investigation report. Not for the first time. We have seen where obvious questions should be asked, and Kevon Stevenson failed to observe that he should ask these questions. Why they did not call the colonel and interview him and ask him, we have an allegation from an anonymous source, so they are not breaching any law because they don't know who sent it can get them. That's the first thing. Your name, sir, called up in this email, and it appears in this allegation, and it appears as if you and this Smaddy know one another. Can you identify for us who was it that sent you this email? And can you provide us, remember they have wide power, wide power. And this is the FLA, it's a government entity, right? And them have wide powers to investigate. When can you identify who it is that sent you this email? And when him say yes or no, ask him to do a search. or get a warrant, you need to find out a who. Critical. Here is the person who is telling you that thousands of bullets are missing from the FLA vaults, right? And that you intended to go and investigate. That's the reason why these were laid out as allegations, because of the intent was to go and investigate. That's the whole idea. So why would the investigation not begin with Colonel Carter to find out who sent this gun in? And having found out who, then you want to ask the colonel to provide you with the whole thread of the conversation between him and this Maddie. The colonel cannot refuse. There are rules that says what would happen to you if you refuse to hand over any documents at all that them ask you for. So the Integrity Commission went and did their investigation. Left out the man who found them call up in the big. Right? Now, this is, as I said before, that this that we have here is simple, what you would call it now. It is an excerpt from what was said. Why it is that the Integrity Commission did not give us the full conversation, right, of what was sent. Then pick out these and say these are worth investigating. Now the process is that they are supposed to do a preliminary check before them decide to jump and investigate. And this, remember, they received May 31, 2021, right? 2021, May 31, and the investigation commenced, I think it was June 14. Yes, the investigation started June 14, I do believe, right? Let me look here in my notes, right? Now, June 14, 2021, the IC commenced investigation. And the investigation did not begin with the name that is mentioned, right? That this thing was going to. This email, it seems to me, was addressed to somebody. They know who it is the person was talking to. They never start an investigation this, right? Now, it took them 5 years to complete this investigation, and I found it very, very odd. So I decided to do a little timeline check, running on the idea that maybe the reason why it took so long was that the investigation had paused for a period, and for some reason they went and reopened it. Now, remember, them started them investigation June 14, and these were the initial allegations. Remember what they are now. Bribery. John Elliott paid $500,000 to get him gun shop reopened. And somebody at the FLA called Column, was trying to extort money out of Kent Brown, who is a firearms dealer, in order to get, he wasn't closed on at the time when him saying get the call. He said that the caller had asked him to pay up the $2 million and he will smooth the way for him. In other words, he's gonna get all them troubles ended. That's what him said, right? And so we'd have bribery, and then there is the matter of the audit that they were using to harass him. This is part of the allegation that he was targeted by audits and they found nothing, right? And then there was also the allegation that numerous guns were missing and thousands of bullets were missing. So those are the allegations. Here, let us now take a walk down memory lane and look at the timeline So the IC received the allegation May 31, and by June 14, they started their investigations. Now, let me see what they did. On June 24, they received a statement from Shane Darling. And Shane Darling was answering some questions about where it is that the FLA store them guns that are earmarked for destruction, and they got the information that it was at the JDF, right? The JDF is where those guns and gun parts are stored that are earmarked for destruction. Now, in the Integrity Commission's report, they usually tell you, what and what they were doing over the period of time. And let me point out something to you now, right? Now, according to them, let me see where I wrote it. According to them, now let me see if I wrote it here. Give me a second, please. Soon tell you. Soon tell you. Okay. All right. Now, they gave some timeline as to when they conducted some matters. And they said that between June 17 and November 27, 2023, they conducted 19 site visits. The site visits would be to the FLA and to the JDF. So November 27, 2023. Now, they had received a statement and they had gone to do a verification exercise with Major Wayne Barrett on June 23, 2021. So that's the same year. And when they went through the bullets, the guns, and the gun parts, what they found was that there was no guns or gun part missing. They were all accounted for. So the first aspect of the allegation that there were guns missing proved to be a lie. Now, I want you to make note, write it down, because it was on June 23, 2021, that the FLA, that the Integrity Commission knew that there was no gun missing. That was when the decision was made, because that was when they went and checked off with the major and found that everything was accounted for. So they would have put an X beside that. No corruption there. No corruption at the DESO. Then now they made some site visits now to the FLA main vault, because remember now the individual said that it's the FLA's vaults. So they have one at the main building, they have a main vault, and they have one at the JDF, and they never say which location, right? They kept that out. Very wise. Now, they conducted the site visits at the FLA's main vault between November 15 of 2021, the same year the allegation came in, and June 13 of 2023. In the meanwhile, they were asking questions about them system and how it worked. On June 13, the Integrity Commission report said that a site verification exercise was done at the main vault with the young lady called Deirdre Mullins, Miss Deirdre Mullins. I think she's in charge of the inventory, I think. I didn't write what she does. So them went with her and them go in the vault and them take up 714 of the 4,103 bags that were there. Them took up 17% of it and start to go through, and that's when they realized that quite a lot of the bags were deteriorating. When they touch them, they start fall apart, the bullets them fall out and all, and the gun, I suppose, fall out and all, them sitting there. So that now is on Mr. Darling and his board, right? Why it is that they never ask for money to buy some bags and go in there and do a fresh audit, and with alongside them, what them have as notes as to what it, not notes, the log, because they're supposed to upload the information to the electronically to the system, but them have a logbook, and them, as usual, them they're not quite up to date with the times. So even though they're supposed to log the information in the book and log it as well on the website, them doing more of the book than on the website. No problem. The information is still there, right? Now, so on the 13th of June 2023, the FLA representative, Ms. Deirdre Mullings, and the IC went into the vault and them do them checks. And they found that one of the bags that held a firearm, I believe, and supposed to hold 519.22 caliber ammo. When them count, them only got 219, so 300 was missing. Now, here is my problem with the Integrity Commission, and them human never make mistake. At no time in that report did they say that the bag itself had a hole in it, right? They said that the FLA said, no man, the bullet them drop out, and what we doing, we see them, we have one box and one bag we put them into. Them say, all right, so them carry the box and bag, and they found some .22 cartridges inside of the box, right? They found, I think, 109, which meant now that 191 is not accounted for. That is a far cry from the thousands and thousands of ammunition that this liar claimed was missing from the vault, right? As if to say them had information. If they were not an employee of the FLA, they had information that this is the case. And of course, the Integrity Commission felt they needed to respond, right? So 191 ammunition them say missing. Now remember, the ammunition will drop out of the bag and roll all over the place. And Shane Darling said the vault is so full that if them even walk and step on one bag, it tear up and the thing then drop out. So he's of the opinion that the bullets are there, them just about the place, right? And if you take up all of the bag then and count up all of the ammunition from the audit that they did in 2017, you may find that, they are there. Now, so they did not say that the bag that had the 300 ammunition missing had a hole in it. And that is my argument, because if it never had a hole in it, then it's 300 missing. Either that, or the person who wrote the information down made an error. When I see numbers like 519 and see another number like 309, 219, I kind of get suspicious that a little mistake made. But the Integrity Commission was satisfied with the explanation. So I would therefore assume that the bag must have a hole in there. And they then minus the 109 they found and reconcile that, okay, it is only of the numbers that them check of the 714 bags, the 17%, only 191 is unaccounted for. They never say missing. Unaccounted for, right? So they knew and had that information that they eventually put in this report on June 13, 2023. So let us now look at this allegation and see. So the guns and the ammunition that they said was missing, that has been proven, and they already knew as late as 2023, June 13, that that was no longer true. So they're supposed to X that out. Which other allegation now is left? The bribery and the claim. Well, the bribery, that's what is now left, right? Because he just said that you and Letine Allen audit Mr. Brown and could find nothing. So what is now left is the bribery claim. Now, he found out, he did an interview, he took a statement from Mr. Kent Brown, the man who is the center of the controversy, the dealer. He's a gun dealer, or was. And they took a statement from him August 19, 2021. And in that statement, Mr. Kent Brown mentioned the allegation of the bribery, that Ellsworth Cullum was trying to shake him down for $2 million. He also mentioned that John Elliott was being shaken down, had to pay $500,000 to get him in shop back, open back, right? But he neglected to tell them that John was dead. He mentioned John Elliott's name when he was interviewed, but he failed to mention to the Integrity Commission investigator that John was dead. He had died, I believe, in June. All right, let me get out of this. Let me go back in the executive. Let me see where I am. It says firearm storage. All right, verification, Kent Brown. So we're going to go straight to Kent Brown. Right? And I have to bring it up big so I can see. So the allegation was that Kent Brown was being targeted, and this now is the investigation that they were doing into the allegation that there was impropriety and corruption with the licensing process. This man said he was being harassed, right? In order to determine the veracity of the allegation that Mr. Kent Brown is being targeted by the FLA, the Director of Investigation obtained an account from Mr. Brown by way of a statement dated August 19, 2021. Mr. Kent Brown is a business owner of KBA Dealers Jamaica Limited. And we're going to learn some things about that company. He had that dealership, and he had a range in Temple Hall in St. Andrew that he was operating. And he sought to get a dealership license for the for Temple Hall, right? But the information was that in 2014 he had written, I think, to the former CEO and asked him to add Temple Hall to the dealership that he had on Maxfield Avenue, the KBA dealers, right? What they did was to use the Temple Hall address, kind of like what the tourism people them do. Tourism people them, you live in Boscobel and St. Mary, when they look, you see the address Ocho Rios, right? When Boscobel is in St. Mary and Ocho Rios is way over the border, quite a number of miles. But them do it because if anybody say Ocho Rios, then we say, ooh, Ocho Rios. And then when they come, they find out, and then about 5 miles from Ocho, you have to pay a lot of money to travel, right? So he had that arrangement. And Temple Hall was the range where them teach people, I think, for fire gun, among other things, some tactical things him had there. Now, the thing was that the process that him supposed to follow is that him supposed to apply for a license for Temple Hall, but he didn't. He wanted Temple Hall to be added to the dealership, and therefore they were using the dealership's address, is my understanding of what was happening. Them found out, and when he applied for his license in May, I believe he said it was May 10, 2021, and he got the license, but no, for Temple Hall, but there was nothing about him selling or being able to deal in firearms there, right? And that was part of the problem, but that was not the only problem. But I'm going to let us give us Mr. Kent Brown the benefit of our ear and hear what him had to say to the Integrity Commission. So on August 19, 2021, in his statement, he informed the DI of an audit conducted at his business establishments by the FLA. Mr. Brown stated inter alia, which means among other things, the following. Now, he said in April 2019, make a note of these dates, my business was audited by the FLA. Remember, he has been in business since 2010. In 2019, it was audited. This audit took about 3 days for both our locations. The FLA sent me a copy of the audit report dated January 7, 2020. The report stated that I had excesses and shortages of rounds and should immediately give an account for the rounds. It actually said more than that, but let us listen to him and his story. He went on to say, so that audit was done when again? When was it done again? Let's see. That audit was done April in 2019. By August, which is more than a year, in 2020, the FLA conducted another audit of my establishment. Now remember, he's trying to establish an idea that they are harassing him because he won't pay this $2 million to this fellow that worked there, that used to work there. The fellow left in July of 2020, right? Now, he said that in August 2020, the FLA conducted another audit of my business. Mr. Ellsworth Column was in charge of this audit. Now, maybe he made a mistake about the time, but according to what was gleaned by the Integrity Commission from Darling, Mr. Ellsworth Column had left the Integrity Commission in July of 2020. Maybe that was a mistake too, so we don't know where the mistake is. But we know that if he wasn't there, he could not have done the audit. But I do believe he must have done the audit, so that is that. He said that at the end of the audit, Ellsworth Column called me on the phone and told me that he will be taking the rounds of ammunition that I have stored at the pro shop. Make a note of that. He had, remember now, they told him that he had overs, and in some ammunition he had less than what he's supposed to have. And I will get to how they know that shortly. So when they did the audit in August, Ellsworth Column told him they will have to confiscate the ammunitions that him had storing at the pro shop, and listen to what he himself said that he said to the FLA representative, Column. I asked him what the customers will do when they come for their rounds, and he told me that they will have to apply to FLA to get them. You heard that? Now you're going to learn that what it is that what it was that Mr. Brown was doing was illegal. It was illegal for him to be storing rounds of ammunition or guns for anybody. The only two parties that the law says that must hold weapons on behalf of somebody if they might travel, right? Or they, for whatever reason, decide to, hold this for me soon come, right? Is at a police station or at the FLA office. Or only them alone the law authorizes to store firearm. The dealers are not authorized, and the law says that it is an offense. Now, you remember that I played that jellyback thing? I wonder why it is, because it never mentioned in the report. Mr. Darling never said so in the appendices, and Mr. Kent Brown, never said so. Why it is he was not prosecuted? Why was he not prosecuted for doing something that he must have known is illegal? And if you never know, you know what they say. Ignorance is no excuse, right? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. They never prosecuted him, and then they turn around and they bite them in their backside by making all kinds of allegations. So this now is him telling the Integrity Commission, remember now we know, the Integrity Commission is investigating something that he said. He's being harassed, and he was being asked to pay over $2 million to smooth the problems that he have with the FLA, and you will soon see the problem. And make I tell you something? I saw a hell of a problem that the man did have, blah, blah. Yes, sir. But make we continue. It said, the DI perused a letter dated July 20, 2019 from Mr. Kent addressed to Shane Darling. Mr. Shane Darling. The letter stated inter alia the following. Dear Mr. Darling, after doing my annual firearm dealer's license renewal for both Maxfield Avenue and Temple Hall locations in May 2019, I got the renewed firearm license certificates for both, only to realize that the firearm, in quotation, aspect of the dealer's license for Temple Hall was omitted from the certificate. When I called on them to quote the name of the smaddy, I was told to hold on. I was told to send back the certificate to be amended. So he always was getting the guns aspect of it on that dealership in Temple Hall, where he could now sell guns and ammunition from that location. He also was a gunsmith and him do training, I think. He had a range at that location. So he was told to send back the certificate for it to be amended. And this was done. But in approximately 2 weeks, when I got back the amended certificate, it still had firearms omitted from it. Meaning to say that the contact that him called at the FLA sent it to where it needed to go, and they told him, no, you're not supposed to operate with no NSL no gun up there. Now, they went on to say, when I called and inquired why, and to quote the name from the smaddy again, the response was, this is how it will be, this is the way forward. What she said to me made no sense, as I have had a full dealer's license at Temple Hall from 2014, which was applied for and approved by the then board and CEO. Now, let me just wait until it's clear. I'm seeing it big and this pesky thing is in my way. I am therefore formally requesting the grounds on which my full dealer's license has been changed to a half dealership, as no correspondence was received about this change. So this is what the Integrity Commission is reporting. Further to the foregoing, the DI examined a letter dated September 9, 2019, and it came from a lady called Kimoy Gaynor, and she's a director of corporate planning and client relations at the FLA. And it was captioned, Firearm Dealer Certificate, Temple Hall. The letter stated the following. The Firearm Licensing Authority writes in response to your letter dated July 20, 2019. This was now nearly 2 years, well, almost 2 years before the Integrity Commission would have received the complaint, would receive the information, I should say. Let me watch them out. Regarding the conditions of your firearm dealer certificate for operations at Temple Hall, St. Andrew, please be advised that the authority had not made any changes to your firearm dealer's license for the Temple Hall location. Instead, we took corrective measures to align the conditions of said license with the certificate issued. We have on file a letter from you requesting that the Temple Hall location be placed on your dealer's license for the Maxfield address. While this request was approved by the former CEO, Mr. Kenroy Wedderburn, it was never intended to allow for the sale of firearms and ammunition at the Temple Hall location. Please be guided that in order to effect such a change for the allowance of both firearms and ammunition at Temple Hall location, it would have required an application form being completed. So them say you can't just take the location of Temple Hall or any other address and just add it to the one where you have. The fact of the matter is, once you purport to sell ammunition and firearm at a location, you have to put in a separate application. That's what she said. Now, did he do that? No. It says here, the necessary investigation and a decision from the board of the authority. The authority therefore recommends that an application be submitted for consideration of full dealership for said location. We extend an apology for any inconvenience this may cause and ask that you be guided accordingly. So there was no issue. Them said, man, you can't operate like it was not when Temple Hall was put on the other dealership license. It was never intended for you to sell guns and ammunition. Now, Darling in the appendices made a suggestion as to the reason why Kent Brown may have wanted it this way. He said that the Maxfield Avenue has a limitation as to how many bullets it can sell in a day to one person per firearm, I suppose. But at Temple Hall, they could sell about 200 rounds, but it was only for them to practice to fire. So they could sell 200 rounds, but 50 at the other location. So they would make more money if the clients could walk in, buy ammunition from them, and walk out. What Darling said was that Temple Hall was a training range, and they were allowed 200 maximum rounds to fire, use up, but they could not leave with them. You understand? So what it was that Kent Brown, he was suggesting that Kent Brown was trying to beat the system and make more money in the process. Now, they never quarreled with him. They simply took the firearm off it. And that now made Temple Hall not as profitable as it was since 2014 when it had a full dealership license operating with. So for 5 years, he got away with doing something that the FLA had approved. And now they're realizing it was not intended for him to be selling guns. So they not quarrel with him. They simply tell him, if you want Temple Hall to sell guns and ammunition, you need to apply for a dealer's license for that location, right? What's the big deal? Simple as that. Let's see what's next. So, consequent on Miss Gainer's letter, the DI perused a letter dated September 13, so 4 days after. Kent Brown wrote a letter back to Kimoy Gaynor, and it was captioned, of course, re-firearm dealer's license, Temple Hall. The letter stated, and let's see now what this letter stated. I am responding to your letter dated September 9, and in particular, the first 3 paragraphs. The fact is, changes are being made to a duly approved and authorized full firearm dealer's license. All the necessary and required documentation was submitted at that time for such a decision to be made. This license was also renewed every year without fail without fail from it was approved in 2014 to present. But they found that there was no application for a license to operate and sell as a dealership to sell guns and ammunition, Mr. Kent, and that is the reason why them stop you. Them took off the gun and the guns from off of the license, so you could now only sell ammunition, and because you are not a dealer in guns and ammunition, the people could not leave. They had to fire off the rounds that them buy. So if they're going to fire 200 rounds in the practice, buy 200 rounds. If they're going to use only 100 or 50, buy what it is they intend to use and leave. That was how it was explained to the Integrity Commission by Shane Dowling. Now let's see if any other excitement. Now it says, I find it strange that in 2019 you have arrived at the conclusion that the full firearm dealer's license issued was never intended for me to sell firearms and ammunition at Temple Hall. I think we have exhausted the topic. Let us see what else was found out. Now, he went into the law and spoke about the section, right? What it is that the authority is supposed to do, the FLA. Let's see if there's anything here of interest. Now, further to Mr. Brown's assertion that he is being targeted by the FLA, the DI perused correspondence between Mr. Kent Brown and the FLA between the period. Now this is very interesting. I need you to pay attention to this date. Remember now, by 2023, he already know that the allegation about the missing firearm and gun is not true. So that part of the investigation was closed, right? Why then was he continuing? Because I'm looking into the idea that this man was being targeted and people are asking for bribe. Now, one of the persons who was supposed to have paid a bribe, he died. And in the report, they did not do any investigation to test whether there was even anything logical to the suggestion, even though the man was not there. Mr. John Elliott was not alive to tell him, say, yes, man, will pay the 500,000. I say it's not true. Him still could find out why it was that the FLA took away his license. Was he given an opportunity to do something and then get back the license? What was the problem? You know what the problem was? The same problem that Kent Brown had with his dealership. When they went and audited him, they found that he had ammunition that was more in some instances and less in some instances, and then asked him to verify, to reconcile the system, right? They asked him to reconcile what he had in his inventory and what he's supposed to have in the inventory, right? And I will get to that shortly. Let me see if there's anything else. Here we go. So let us go back. It said, when he's investigating whether or not he was targeted, the DI perused the correspondences between Kent Brown and the FLA, and the period was January 7, 2020 and May 4, 2022. So we know that sometime after May 4, 2022, the Integrity Commission was still investigating, but this time they are looking at the business about this man being targeted, right? And he said the letters germane to the investigation, these he found very useful. Listen to this. I mean, this is so incredible. The Director of Investigation at the Integrity Commission perused a letter dated January 7, 2020. Now remember, in the statement that Kent Brown had made August 19 of 2021, he said that he had received the result of the audit that was done on his locations January 7, 2020. So this now is what the investigator at the Integrity Commission had in his possession, right? And it said, hold on one second. Oh, remember to like up the live and share it, please. Yes, this is very much live. So it says, the DI perused a letter dated January 7. That is a letter that he got from the FLA about the audit, addressed to Mr. Kent Brown from Miss Letine Allen. Remember, the allegation was that Letine Allen and Carter had done an audit on Mr. Brown's establishments and they found nothing. That was what was said in that email that was eventually passed over to the Integrity Commission. You remember that? Well, let us read. So the letter was to Mr. Kent Brown and it came from Ms. Letine Allen, and she's the Director of Compliance and Enforcement Department at the FLA. And the caption, Firearm Dealer Audit and Inspection 2019. The letter stated inter alia the following: reconciliation of ammunition. Only the .45 caliber ammunition were reconciled. What does that mean? Now, I should explain to you that what happens is that at the FLA, they have a system, and that system is where the dealers supposed to sell them firearm and them ammunition through. Whenever the guns and the bullets are imported, especially the guns supposed to go to the FLA where them do a ballistics on it, right? And then them send them back to the dealer. So if the dealer bought 100 guns, like say a Glock, it is in the FLA system that them have 100 Glock. They are supposed to use that very same system in the dealership when somebody go in, and not when say me, when somebody go in and buy a Glock, they are supposed to upload into the system that them sold the Glock to John Brown and write down the serial number. And when the system accepts it, the system then deletes the transaction out. That is what we said, but I do believe it is stored somewhere, right? You have to create an audit trail in case they need to audit. So that system is a point of sale system like what is in the supermarket. It is an inventory system where the FLA has a real-time view of the guns that are in the dealership when the guns are sold, and therefore when them do them audit, they simply go to the audit, the system, print what is supposed to be in the stock of the dealer. So if them got 100 guns and sold say 50 and had 50 left, all they go to the dealership and do is look and see if they have 50 Glock. You get me? If you register that you bought 3,000.22 ammunition, you register it in the inventory system of the FLA. Whenever you're selling 100 to A, you must put it in that system. And then it just simply minus and then tell the FLA how much you have left in a stock. So when they go to these dealers, them not looking at what them sell, them not interested in that. Them looking merely, this is my view, I don't see how else it could be, them looking merely at what it is the system says that you're supposed to have in there. Which means that if you start out with 100 and 50 is left, you would have sold 50. But that is not what they're interested in. They're interested to know about how much you have left in stock. So when they went to Mr. Kent Brown's establishment and them start to reconcile, seeing how much the system say them supposed to have of the .45 caliber ammunition. So if they're supposed to have 1,010, when they went in and count, because it's like a stock taking. That's what the audit is. When them count, them found that there was 1,010. So it was reconciled. You get that? But that was the only one. Listen to what them say. There were excesses, meaning to say, whatever it was the system said they're supposed to have in a stock of the .22 caliber ammunition, they had 115,700 more. I wonder if you get me. You get what I just said to you a while ago? When them went into the man's establishment to do the stock taking, to audit how much .22 ammunition him have in there, they found that he had an excess of what him supposed to have, what the system at the FLA say him supposed to have, of 115,700 .22, not in the FLA system. When it comes to the .223 caliber ammunition, he had 11,856 more than what the system said he's supposed to have. The .380, him had 8,317 more. He had 800.38 super more, and him have 741.40. And I think this is saying that him had 17,441 more 9mm ammunition than him supposed to. When him check one and two others, what they found was that he had a shortage of 1,132.38. I think that must be special, and 408 12 gauge shotgun cartridge. Right? Those were short. Now, if it is short, meaning to say that I'm supposed to have, say, 100 in stock, and him end up with 90, that is an indication that but him forget to put up the information in the system. So all him have to do is go through his sales book and look through the sales book until him find where a sale was done, and them never upload it. And then now when him find them, him just upload the information to the website. But when you have an excess, let me see if I get this thing right. Give me a moment, let me see if I get this thing right. When you have an excess of 115,000, if the system is saying I'm supposed to have, say, 20,000, and he has an excess of that amount, he is going to have, because remember now, if him started out with, let's say him started out with $1 million, right, over the period, and the system is saying that him have 50,000 left, meaning to say him sell off the rest, and the sale would have been duly noted in the system. For him to have more, then the question is, where did it come from? He had to Mark Golding and Peter Bunting and all of them risers love to talk about account. And it would appear as though Mr. Kent Brown is either some personal friend of theirs, or maybe him applied to them to be talking on his behalf while them was going on so in a parliament. Right? So he had to account, meaning to say him had to go through his system, see how much him bought, see how much him upload, and tell the FLA where them the extra bullets come from. Now remember, he was actually storing bullets at him location for people as well, which he's not supposed to do. So we don't know if that was part of this, but that is not the only thing. Listen to this part. So Miss Allen said to him, you are required to immediately give an account for the shortage and excesses of ammunition mentioned above. So him had to get down now and start go through the books for all that he purchased, all that he sold, and get it to reconcile with what it is that the FLA inventory system said that him have in stock, physical stock, right? Now, if you think you're here, not yet. Listen to this. They gave him until January 17. They gave him 10 days to reconcile. So this was what the letter said. Conclusion, actions to be taken by the company. They not kill him because maybe the system, is communication, and maybe they just never upload it, or maybe they forget to put in the system that them had these ammunition. KBA Dealers Jamaica Limited is to account for the shortage and excess ammunition outlined in this report on or before January 17, 2020. They gave him 10 days, right, to reconcile what he has in stock with what it is that the FLA say him have in stock, right? Remember now, everything, every ammunition and every gun that is sold is supposed to be sold through the system so that they can know what to go on, right? Now, what else is he supposed to do? Listen to this. That was ammunition she was dealing with. 18 firearms are included on your physical inventory. That's what I'm finding in them shop. Serial numbers above in the report. So I'm telling what the serial numbers are. But were not seen in the inventory retrieved from the FLA database. Please provide documents to account for these firearms on or before January 17, 2020. Then there were 15 firearms sold. However, they were still included on your inventory on the FLA database as active, and give them the serial number. Please provide documents or declaration of sale to account for the sale of these on January 17, 2020. Now, firearms was sold but still remain active on the system. It's a simple matter. Them simply sold the firearm and forget to upload it to the system, right? So him could sort that out. Him just need to find the firearm when it was sold and then upload to the system, and that sort out. But here is the problem. Those 18 firearms that they found on his compound in the dealership, right? But was not seen in the inventory retrieved from the FLA database. How the hell did that happen? Do you understand what it is that this is saying? It is saying that if Jolly and Silvera had gone to his dealership and bought one of these 18 firearms that the FLA don't have in the inventory. Listen to what this is saying, you know. The firearm is supposed to come into the country. The firearm is supposed to go to the FLA so that they can do them checks and fire the gun and keep a record of the markings on the bullet so that them can track. And that was how they kept Silvera, even though he was trying to distort the barrel so that them couldn't track the bullet to the one that them have in the FLA. Had he got one hold of one of these guns, the FLA would not have had any evidence in them file. So the question is, so they ask him to provide documents to account for these firearms. Show us where you got these firearms from, where you buy them from, right? And then gave him until January 17, 2020. The man had in his shop 18 firearms, 18, that FLA don't know nothing about. When every single legal firearm is supposed to go through them system and them supposed to have on record the ballistics of the firearm. They don't have it. And then the person that wrote to Colonel Carter, tell Colonel Carter, said them audit Mr. Brown and they found nothing. Mr. Brown clearly lied to that person. And there is something about that person that wrote that, you know, they seem very intemperate. Mr. Bunting, Marcotte, you did write the letter there? Eh? Was it you that Mr. Brown appealed to and you as the spokesperson of national security? Him trying to see if he can save him business. Nothing wrong with that. Were you the person who wrote to Mr. Carter? And I call him Carter, the pompous scamp that you are. Are you? I wonder if it was you, because as I was reading it, you know, the first name that flashed into my mind, but this kind of sounded a little bit intemperate, kind of like the outbursts where you're making at the house from time to time. Where you have to tell off people about this and tell off people and corrupt. Was it you who wrote that email to Colonel Carter? I mean, there's nothing wrong with you looking out for a citizen, Mr. Brown, and advocating on their behalf if you were told something that turned out not to be true. It is no wonder that you know so quiet after you create all this excitement about the report. Uno expected a scandal. Instead, what you get is one hell of a scandal, right? It turns out that the FLA had good grounds to cancel this man's license if this was the reason, because they never really said what reason it was. But how the hell could he have had in his possession 18 firearms where the FLA don't know nothing about? He then wrote and claimed, and this is what he did, that these were fabricated serial numbers and fabricated guns that don't exist. That's what he told the Integrity Commission. Right? So this is a very, very serious problem that Mr. Kent Brown would have had. The DI examined a letter dated January 15, and this now was addressed to Letine Allen. And this now is Mr. Kent Brown's response to the findings of the FLA audit. I am writing to you in response to the audit report that I received from you dated January 7, 2020, with answers to your concerns as follows. We at KBA dealers offer the audit team our ammunition sales figures as is customarily done. And that him always do. When them come there, him say, oh, here are what we, here's our documentation. These are our sales information. He said, and as seen from previous FLA audits, go and confirm, say, that we do. We are open book, we're not a hide, and we have been providing you and cooperating with you and giving you our sales record, right? He then said, note, this was not used or accepted. Of course not, Mr. Kent Brown, because they're only concerned about what the FLA system say you have in stock. They're not interested in your sales. They're only interested in what you say you have in stock, right? They're only interested in what their system say you have in stock. So they have come to your establishment to determine whether or not 15 guns Glock you have or 100 shotgun. That is what then come to check off, right? And if they find that you have more, then they're going to ask you to reconcile it. So you have to go through your books. So they were not interested in your sales report. That is it's on you. If the audit is out, you have to go sort that out, not them. So he may not have understood that that is what the FLA does when they do them audit. He went on to say, I therefore have come to the conclusion that figures, quantities, balances, and totals from the FLA are all incorrect and seriously what? Seriously compromised and holds no integrity whatsoever. It is very disturbing as these words, setup or entrapment and victimization, rears its ugly head. I have lost all trust and faith in the FLA system as it stands now, as it is highly suspect that so many errors, mistakes, etc. have occurred. Right? Them ask him, man, you have 115,720 extra, what you call it, 0.22 cartridge. Account for it. In write instead and custom off and say, uno incorrect. Right? But anyway, he did ask them for more time so he can go sort it out. Now, I don't know whether I sort it out, yes or no, but that was the problem that Mr. Kent Brown faced. That audit, he failed bad. And how and if he was able to reconcile those 18 firearms that he had in their possession that the Integrity Commission said them don't see. Did they check manually and found them? We don't know, because the Integrity Commission put out these information and failed to tell us what the outcome of Kent Brown's problems. Was he able to solve it? Right? Apparently not, but we can't say for sure that that was the reason why them took away his license. Now let me see if there's any need to go on. It says this letter now was dated April 27. So up to 2022, remember they were still conducting site visits to the FLA main vault up to 2023. So this was the ongoing investigation at the time. And while he was looking into that, he was looking into this allegation that the man was being harassed. After the Integrity Commission saw what the man had in possession, you would have thought they would have been skeptical about the things that they're now hearing from this man, right? The letter dated April 27, 2022 from Kent Brown to Shade Nawley. Due to the fact that I was forced out of business by the Firearm Licensing Authority and some of its officers, I am requesting that the Firearm Licensing Authority make arrangements to check off inventory of arms, ammunition, and guns magazine possession at KBA dealers. and collect same to be taken to the authority for safekeeping, as I am no longer able to store these items. Now, would you believe that when the commission did that, got that statement from this man, Kent Brown, on August 19, 2021, his range was already shut down and he never told the Integrity Commission. John Brown, whose name he meant, John Elliott, whose name he mentioned, was already dead and he never told them, right? So looking at the timeline again, the letters that were dated Brown to Gaynor by May 4 of 2022, the investigator would have known of this January 7 inventory that was told to Mr. Kent Brown. So far from being harassed by the Integrity Commission, by the FLA, far from being harassed by the FLA, they had good grounds, and he was attempting, it seems, based upon what Darling was saying in the appendices, he was attempting to, try to save his business. Not a thing wrong with that, and use whatever influence he think him have. So we already agree that they had settled by the 2023 that there were no guns and ammunition missing. Now, the verification exercise was done, and the allegations now, there were further allegations that were made in that statement that Mr. Kent Brown had made. And that was, there was a sale of 6,000 12-gauge cartridges for shotgun from his establishment, and he did not make that sale. He also said that if the sale was done on the FLA system, he never authorized it. And what the FLA had done is to make an illegal entry in order to damage, right, to his detriment, in order to damage him, so that they can make this decision not to issue the license. So let me ask you a question. You already have an audit that showed that he had 18 firearms in possession that not upon the FLA system. And you already have evidence from him that he was storing people's ammunition, which he's not allowed to do under the law. It is an offense. You already have him with 115,700.22 caliber bullet, and he's supposed to give account. We don't know if he actually did. We can't say if he actually was able to explain where those guns come from. We don't know, right? I imagine if he could not, then the FLA might be looking at calling him over to lock up a mask for possession of illegal firearm or something to that effect. So maybe he was able to sort that out. But whatever it was that happened, his license was cancelled. Now, they refused to give. What happened was, when they audited him and told him to reconcile, in May of 2021, he went and paid all the fees that he was supposed to pay for the license. However, what happened was that they held on to the certificate and it took them to court, asking, Hugh Wildman was an attorney, and he asked the court to force FLA to give him the certificate, and the court refused. So that was the end of that, right? He said that he had to close down the range, and he said he closed the range. Let's see. He said he closed the range. Let's see. closed the range in 2021. I think it was July. And then the following year, he closed the dealership in 2021. He closed the dealership, right? And the Integrity Commission was still investigating. Now, the bribe that he claimed, or the extortion money that was being sought from him by this employee, he never provided one shred of evidence. And when you look in the Integrity Commission report, there was no statement that was sought from Ellsworth Cullum. They never said they tried to find him or anything. They only found out from Darling how long he was working with the FLA, and that was that. And then Mr. John Elliott was already dead when soon after the investigation started. So that would have been a dead end. So they would have put an X beside that, right? Because it would be his word against Cullum's word. And it was Cullum who had gone there, according to him, and did the audit and found that he still had these ammunition him say a hold for people, and they decided so they were going to take it from him. They should have taken it from him from before. But I guess they had to give him the opportunity to reconcile the account first, right? Before them take any action to seize anything. And having given him the opportunity, then did a second audit. He tried to make out that the second audit was part of the harassment of him because he never paid over the 2 million and said he must pay. But if you look at John, and it was Darling who said in the appendices, because they never investigated about John Elliott, why was his license cancelled and why did he get it back? You would have thought that they should have done that once they mentioned that the man pay money to somebody at the FLA. They should at least check out what it was that the FLA had cited him on. It turned out, according to Darling, that he had paid $450,000 to the FLA itself for licenses and for late fees, right? So there was no money paid to anyone. What it was that Darling failed to say was whether or not Mr. Elliott was able to reconcile his situation with the overs and unders. Was he able to reconcile? Because once he can reconcile, right, and took the time and went slowly through his records and find all of the ammunition and all of this, and he reconciled and went and did another audit. Found that all was well, and then them tell him to go and go pay the fee and then get back in license. That was that apparently was what happened. They did not investigate. And it was the 24th of May. They had a meeting with Darling and some other persons on, I think they said it was the 19th of March. And remember, the report was drafted on and signed on the 27th of March, and then wait until the 19th to call in Darling and tell him what they're going to recommend and what they're going to have in the report. So by the time him get a chance to hear some of the allegations for the first time, everything have to be secret, they never give him time to respond. And even when he responded and gave them the explanation for why it was that John lost his license, why it was that John Elliott got back his license, that was never put in the report. They were in a mad rush to put it out. So after 5 years, now imagine, the man is claiming that he was being harassed by the FLA. That's basically what he was saying. You don't have any evidence that Cullum had called him and asked him for nothing. You couldn't put that in the report. So that aspect of the bribery, then dash with that too. What was left was a new allegation about the 6,000 ammunition. And that was what them held on to. Why? Because something with that. two persons who were supposed to have bought 2,000 rounds of the 12 gauge bullets from the range. Them said they never buy it. Them TRN used. And listen to this now, their TRN was used, their name was used, and they never bought it. Then found out that a man who was dead 3 weeks before, resurrected from the dead, walked into Temple Hall and bought 2,000 rounds of the 12 gauge gun too. But here what happened. Apparently, how the system works, them have and the FLA need to do something about it, and they can. If you turn off your system, remember the old time days when you turn off your system and turn it off in the right sequence. When you turn it on back, a problem, the computer can't work, right? They have found a way in our Windows to solve that problem. If this light chip out now and the computer chip and the computer gone and light gone out of it. And when we turn it on, it take a few minutes. If there are some things going on the hard drive, it fix it. So the FLA needs to get somebody who is a software person to put in that element that if the system is shut off incorrectly in the incorrect sequence, that it will do an automatic repair and then load up. It will take more than a few minutes, if not seconds these days, right? So when they have a login problem and when they make mistakes, they cannot go in the system and correct it. So the system is like this. Once you input information, you cannot correct it. Once you put enter, you can't correct it for the obvious reason that if they were able to do so, they can go in there and make corrections to things, right? And mess up not just mess up the system, but hide anything at all that they were doing. So once you put information in there, if you put 2 guns and the man says, boy, I'm not bother one gun them again, yeah, man, to come here so they can get it cheaper. And you need to cancel, you have to contact the FLA by email. I hear that Darling said that they can do it by phone. That is usually when you and the person have a relationship, but it's not supposed to be. You must have a paper trail just in case what happen. Where then come back later now, can say they never call you and make they authorize you to do any such thing. So you call the FLA and the FLA has a protocol and get the email. Them have to go to higher ups send it to our next department and then check off. And a memo has to be generated and the authorization is sent now to the department that does it. And it's not an ordinary SMAD in the department, a the big neck SMAD in that department must go into the system. They have to create a login, go into the system, and then make the adjustment. If you have a problem with the software, well, the IT man said them standing over him when him doing whatever he's doing. So obviously, the integrity, the FLA sends somebody to the location, and them have to go in now and try to fix. Him have to use for credentials and I try to fix it so that the person can log in, and them are watching, right? And they are saying that there's nothing that them can do. Some of them don't have access to certain information. And I used to work with Xerox, and that's the same thing with Xerox. When you have a login problem, you have to contact the IT department, and that IT department was in India, and they ask you for your password and all them sitting there in order to fix the problem. It is in India that them send and tell them that this person need a login and this is the application they must have access to, and then them create the login for the person and give them access to specific applications. So I was in the metered supplies department. Although I could see on the system, the service department, I could not access it because my login limit me only to the metered supplies and only to certain aspects of metered supplies. It will be the very same thing for the FLA system, right? It will be the very same thing. So the FLA has the FIDEM system, and they have a protocol that if mistakes are made, if the system not booting, if the software fail, this is what is done. Now, one of the young ladies there, one of the top ranking persons, are the first them ever hear anybody saying that anybody went into them system and do something where they're not supposed to do. Now, what would be the advantage of the FLA going into them system and claiming that 3 persons, one of them dead, and 2 other persons that don't have any license to be shooting birds? Why would they do that? According to the Integrity Commission, to make it look bad for him, right? No. If you have a man who have 18 firearms on the FLA system, what you need to go create more excitement for? It's not necessary. The strangest thing about it all was that the Integrity Commission did not ask Mr. Kent Brown who else worked at Temple Hall. The question was never asked of Mr. Brown who else worked. Now, let me tell you what the problem was. When they asked Mr. Kent Brown to reconcile, he was going through trying to see if he can find a way how this thing works, right? Now, he found an entry that said that these 12 gauge bullets, was 2,000 of them was sold to Smaddy, and he believed it was indeed doo-doo. He thought that he was only allowed 200 bullets, which is true. However, when there is the bird season, a person with a licensed firearm and approval from NEPA can go to the gun shop and order a maximum of 2,000 rounds per shotgun per day. It was obvious that Mr. Kent Brown did not know it, right? Somebody then must have known it, and this is how I figure somebody else at his, he may have had a salesperson at his shop in Temple Hall. And sure enough, when you look at his company, I never look at the range, but certainly the one on Maxfield Avenue has 3 directors. Him and 2 other Smaddy with the name Brown. So there are 3 directors. I don't know about Temple Hall because they said it was closed, right? Those locations were closed. So the FLA, the Integrity Commission failed to ask the obvious question. If you did not make the sale, because it clearly was not him. He never knew he could have sold 2,000, but Smaddy knew. Why was it they did not ask Mr. Brown if there's anybody else at him shop apart from him? That question evidently was not asked, and if it was not stated in the Integrity Commission's report table in a parliament. It is an obvious question that a curious investigator would ask. In other words, you have to be skeptical about what you're being told. You can assume that in talking the truth, but then it might be useful to assume that maybe might a lie, because he is the one that has an interest, right? Because in believing did something wrong. He's the one that has an interest in making up a story, right? And what would have been involved here is a serious, serious thing. The two men, the Integrity Commission, believed them when they said that they did not buy those ammunition. And the grounds on which the Integrity Commission said they believe the two men then, the two living one then, is because they did not possess the necessary permit from NEPA that would then enable them to go into the gun shop and order the rounds. For goodness sake, use on the brain. Since when people not having the correct credentials and permit prevent anybody from doing anything in a Jamaica? Use on a damn brain. The obvious possibility was that the gun shop up there at Temple Hall may have sold the bullets to these persons who never had no permit. And now, when the owner realized he might have been, I'm not saying that that is what happened. I'm merely saying that as an investigator, you have to look at all the possibilities. They never chose to look at the possibilities. They chose to assume that since it is now the dealers, the man with the problem, word against Siobhan Robinson, who was the person working at the FLA at the time. He said he had the authority. The Integrity Commission say, okay, show us the evidence. It turned out that at the time, them had a catastrophic failure of the system, but it could not have been the system that the FLA system where they keep the inventory that failed. How we know? Because they knew who it was that had gone in and made or completed the sale. So what would have happened? The Siobhan Robinson said, well, if I went into the system and make this addition to it, it must have been because I got either a call or an email saying that, you know, we're trying to get into the system and we can't complete the sale. Can you complete it for us? And therefore, I put it in following all the protocols. But the emails were not there and they did not apparently keep a physical record. I cannot imagine what could be more ridiculous than that. You have files. So if you have files, you should be printing the emails that gave you the authority to make the change just in case somebody come and say, they never tell you that. So it turned out now to be one person's word against the other because there was no documented evidence. Mr. Brown was saying that him don't have no record. The strangest thing is that the Integrity Commission did not say that they asked Mr. Brown to show them him books so that them can see for themselves during that period when the sale was made. All three of them made on the same day, right? Check for yourself and see if it is true the man at talk said there was no sale on that day. At least look, the man could have had multiple books. Many business people in Jamaica do that, right? They have one book for the taxman and the other book they keep for themselves in order to pay less taxes. A whole heap of them do that. Not saying that this man did it, but at least looking at the book and satisfy yourself that what you are being told is the truth. They never said they did any such thing. Them said them went and them asked the men for a statement who for name appear on the FLA system as having bought these ammunitions, and then gave them a story. They never, one of them said, yeah, I used to shoot gun, but from 2015, you know, me not kill up, me not shoot no bird, you know, me not into the bird thing. The other one said, but me not shoot bird, but buying 2012 gauge shotgun is not, bullets for a shotgun is not only to kill bird. I don't know why he would want so much. But Mr. Stevenson and Mr. Harrison, there is also another possibility that somebody sold those ammunition to somebody and used the two men's name as cover. Mr. Brown saw the entry, so him never known about it. Whoever it was that he had working at him shop, at them you should have interviewed. He said that on the day that the transaction was made, the shop was not open in Temple Hall. The Integrity Commission investigator never said that them check to see whether or not there was any sale on that day to verify that what was told to them was true. Them simply accept it. Apparently, Mr. Kent Brown, whoever he is, there seems to be a presumption of integrity where he is concerned. They don't ask him no question more than whatever him choose to tell them. They don't need to verify. And just see some emails and I'm good with that. You understand me? So the investigation, in my view, was not complete. Mocha needs to go in. And strangely enough, the Integrity Commission said that normally they would recommend that Mocha get involved, but since there was a catastrophic failure of the server of the FLA, it appears that is only the email server, the server that controls the email that failed because they have the record of this transaction and who it was that used them login to complete. So the FLA system is working. What may not be working is the email system, but that doesn't mean that you should assume that Mocha don't have some kind of technique that they could use investigation and find out something. He is not going to recommend that Mocha get involved. I recommend, and I hope all of you recommend too, that Mocha needs to get in because there is a strong possibility that something very dangerous went on. Because if indeed, and this is another thing, he said him not sell shotgun bullets from that location, I think is what he said. But for the individual to go into the FLA system, he would have had to add it that him had 6,000 rounds and then put that in, make the sale and get the information from the system and say that a them too smart it sell to, right? To what avail. And if he had the bullets in stock and the man made an entry and the bullets were not sold to these persons, it simply means, as Darling said, that the 6,000 bullets were still in the possession of Mr. Brown's business at Temple Hall. The FLA was hearing about it for the first time. Darling said he never hear about it, and when him approached one of the high-ranking person, them said the first time I hear that. Nobody has ever said that. First time I hear that. Nobody has ever said that anybody at the FLA go into them system, go put things on it or take things out. And the Integrity Commission did not seek to inform Mr. Darling about this, what he called manipulation, right? In order to injure Mr. Brown. They went so far as to have said that it is a fact. The fact is that one of your employees went in and made this and manipulated the system and put information upon the man thing, and them have no damn evidence. Them have evidence that the employee, Mr. Siobhan Robinson, went into the system and completed the sale. Them have evidence of that. Siobhan is saying, I would have done it because I had permission. I'm not there anymore. And the dealer is saying, I never give you no such permission. What about any other employee, Mr. Kevin Stevenson? Did you ask if there was anybody else working at Temple Hall who could have done it? That question was never asked. And if it was asked, you never put it in the report. Why? Let me tell you what I think happened, right? After them prove that it was a lie that there were no guns and ammunition missing, and after them allowed this investigation to go on for 5 years, you can imagine what we out here would say if they never had anything to show for the resources, the time, and the money that them spend on this investigation. They knew that the guns and ammunition, the thousands of ammunition, was accounted for except for 191 bullets, .22 bullets, right? And only a full audit will determine if they are really missing, or I should say, if they are really unaccounted for. So they knew that on June 13, 2023. If Mr. Brown is saying that Smuddy, and he said it, August 19, 2021, that into the system and put this transaction of 6,000 and them are trying to get him in trouble. And you mean to tell me from 2021 until 2026 January, you couldn't complete that investigation? I want to tell you something about what them said. I want you to listen to this now, right? Beg your pardon. They said that between June 17, 2021 to November 27, 2023, they conducted 19 site visits. Between January 25, 2022 and July 19, 2023, the IC conducted 7 judicial hearings. What that means? When them call the persons to a meeting, they inform them of them rights, which means you tell me a lie, you're no problem. So talk the truth. 7 of them. When was the last one conducted? July 19, 2023. That was the last time they did a judicial hearing. So what were they doing between July 19 and 2023? Recording statements. I have this question to ask in the Integrity Commission. Was this case closed at any time? Was it closed? And was it later resurrected? If it was closed, why was it closed? And if it was resurrected, if they decide to open back this case and continue, why was it open when the man clearly had problems that even the DI said when they saw the file of the investigation, because why they withheld the certificate from him, in 2021, May, when he applied, was because they decided to investigate him. We're talking about Mr. Kent Brown, investigate his companies, right? And here we are talking about. And in the course of the investigation, they gave the DI, the Integrity Commission's investigators, the file. And let me see if I can find it. Let me see if it is here. So when they look at what was in the investigation, all right, look like me I forgot somewhere else, but be small of this. And let me take a quick little look here, because it's kind of fine print and I can't see with my glasses near and I can't see with it far. All right, the storage. Mr. Brown targeting. I reach there, so yes, let me shut that down. Revocation of the license. So let's open that one. Close this one. So when you read the investigation report, this is where it's now saying that he received a letter on February 20, 2024 from the FLA telling him that they revoke him license for the range, but he already locked it down. It says here, my businesses KBA dealers and KBTTC are now both closed. KBTTC, which is a range, was closed on July 21, 2021, which means the same year, just almost a month before the Integrity Commission finally tracked him down or interviewed him and got the statement, the range was already closed. You never told them that. The first time it seemed as if the Integrity Commission realized that the range lockdown is when him admit in his statement that he gave. He said that the KBA dealers was closed on February 6, 2022, the following year. While I'm looking into this thing, the two businesses are locked down. Both businesses were closed because I no longer had a valid firearm dealer's license to import goods. I no longer had a dealer's license for the shop at Maxfield Avenue, the range at Temple Hall, nor did I have my gunsmith license. Between July 21, 2021 and February 6, must remember that, Bob Marley birthday 2022. I wish to say that my business cannot operate without the physical certificates because I need to present to Jamaica Customs, firearm suppliers, and the trade board. Sometimes Homeland Security would request a copy of the up-to-date certificate if they will bring things from US. He went on to say, in relation to the dealer's license for KBTT, the range, the license has to be renewed on or before May 10 of each year. In 2021, I submitted the application before the date and paid the necessary fees. The receipt was stamped approved by the Compliance and Enforcement Department of FLA as customary. Normally, I would get the new certificates a few days later. However, this did not happen because remember, this was 2021 now, and remember, he had a letter on January 7, 2020, telling him what the result of the audit was and asked him to reconcile all of these, outlandish, outrageous amount of excesses that he had. It is up to him now to tell them, Ocho, this thing, man, is a little mistake, a little 1 year. So him was to do that. So when he went and paid the money the following year, because a second audit was done, remember, he said a second audit was done by the same man that him accused of trying to shake him down. And the man took with the bullets them that him had stored for other people. I asked him, man, what am I supposed to do when the people come back for them bullet? He said, well, all them have to come at FLA, come, make we know, say, them have X amount of bullet and we give it back to them. Take away from him, but didn't prosecute him. Right? As them probably should. Now, so the license was supposed to have been renewed in 2021, and him expect the certificate, and it was not forthcoming. When I realized that I did not get the new certificates, I sent an email to Miss Deirdre Mullins, who is in charge of the application and certification. Why is it that you don't give me my certificate yet, and look how long me apply? However, I did not get a response. I sent her another email and she did not respond. I then asked my attorney, Hugh Wildman, to send them a letter and they also did not respond. So he sued them. He said he had to shut down the range on July 21, 2021. He did not tell the Integrity Commission that, apparently, because I was out of ammunition to sell. And my license was not granted for me to be able to purchase ammunition for that location. That's what he said, right? So he shut that one down. In relation to the dealer's license for KBA dealers, the license is renewed on or before May 10 of each year on his birthday. The renewal date is also my birthday, as is customary with the FLA, like driver's license. In 2021, I submitted my application and I paid all the necessary fees, and my receipt was stamped approved by the Compliance and Enforcement Department at the FLA. However, my certificate was not issued to me. No, had you under investigation. He said further, in relation to my gunsmith license, so he had license for dealership and a gunsmith license. I applied for its renewal the same time as my dealership license. My receipt was stamped approved by the FLA. However, I did not receive my approval certificate. Subsequent to the FLA not issuing my certificates, I filed a lawsuit in October 2021 to compel the FLA to issue the certificates that they were withholding. And the judge ruled that she can't force them to do any such thing because the law said it's up to them to issue or withdraw or revoke a license. And I don't think the law actually said that they had to give a reason. Anyway, the Integrity Commission says, or in a report, further to Mr. Brown's assertions that he filed a claim, then went and do some investigation, and then found a claim bearing number SU 2021, which meant that it was filed in 2021, and it was filed in the Supreme Court Civil Division. The parties were Kent Brown, claimant, and the Firearm Licensing Authority as a defendant. And the matter was decided in favor of the FLA. The FLA win the case. And Judge Sonia Wint-Blair, in her judgment, said, the court cannot find, based on the evidence presented, that there has been a breach of duty. Therefore, a mandatory order is not the appropriate form of relief in all the circumstances in the case. And then mention other things too. What were they asking the court to do? Well, it kind of frees up here. Soon change. They wanted the court to declare the declaration they saw that the defendant, which is the FLA, is not permitted under the Firearms Act to withhold the 3 certificates. And they wanted the judge to rule that they must give them the certificate because they paid for and they had approved it, and the judge refused that claim. They wanted an order of mandamus sought compelling the defendant to issue to the claimant, which was Brown, the 3 certificates, and that was also refused by the court. So that I think it went to appeal, and it probably lost it there too. Now, further to the foregoing, this now reached January 25, 2024, address to Mr. Kent Brown from Shane Darling. So the letter was from Shane Darling, and it was addressed to Kent Brown. And this now was January 25, 2024. Re-advisory on non-recognition of trainer and range status by the Firearm Licensing Authority. And it was basically saying that the board had made a decision on October 10, 2023 to withdraw your recognition as a firearm trainer and or range operator. But remember, him had already locked it down from 2021, kind of late. In view of the above, we request that you promptly halt operations at the range and refrain from conducting any training activities if you have not already done so. Additionally, your name will be excluded from the authority's roster of trainers and range operators. Now, you might say, Lord, man, that's so tough. Why don't even not give the man that to eat something? The man must eat a food. Listen to this. The Integrity Commission said that the investigator highlights 3 revocation orders signed by the chairman of the FLA board on February 6, 2024. Now, this would be the new chairman, not Mr. Carter, no, Colonel Carter. I think this gentleman now is Justice Glenn Brown, relating to Mr. Kent Brown. The orders revoked Mr. Brown's gunsmith license and 2 firearm dealers' license, right? And it was pursuant to Section 84 of the Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act of 2022. All 3 orders stated, and I'm quoting them now. The reason for this revocation is because the investigation, so they were investigating him, has unearthed circumstances with which the board is extremely uncomfortable. From all indications, the holders, that is Brown and his companies, integrity and fitness have now rendered him unsuitable to be in possession of firearms and ammunition. And this order was dated February 6, 2024. Now, despite all of that, the Integrity Commission said, why is this thing taking so long to change over? I should be checking and making sure you hear everything, $107 million, Mark Golding, that's what you owe me. 107,000. I can't million that. Why you don't behave on yourself? It says, the DI perused copies of the files relating to Kent Brown. So they have requested the FLA to hand over the file of the investigation. So he received the copies and he perused them, maintained by the FLA. A thorough examination of the files was conducted with particular attention given to an investigation concerning Mr. Brown's business operations. So the Integrity Commission is saying that his dealership and gunsmith licenses were terminated, right? Because of the results of an investigation. And we ask to see the investigation because we want to know if are really true, so now harass this man, right? Because pay $2 million. So the evidence would show if they didn't have any good reason, it would have shown up in the investigation. So they might try to punish this man. You understand? So they got hold of it. So for once, them do something what they should do. A thorough examination of the files was conducted with particular attention given to an investigation concerning Mr. Brown's business operations. Given the evidence obtained throughout the investigation and the subsequent preparation of an investigation report containing recommendations to the board of the FLA, the DI is sufficiently satisfied. Listen what I'm saying now. The basis of the revocation was fair and just. You heard that? When we look on the file and look on the evidence that they presented from this investigation, they now realize that they were wasting their damn time for up to this point for 3 years. Or was it 2025? They realized they were wasting their time. That's what it amounts to. The DI further acknowledges that it is in this instance the FLA did not act ultra vires to their statutory authority. I would have expected, since it was corruption that you were investigating, that you ought to have said, or at least drop in the word that in this instance the FLA was not acting corruptly, because that is what was accusing the FLA staff members of. So they may have acted corruptly with the issuance and the revocation of licenses. So concede that they were acting within their powers and acting within the statutory authority to revoke the license that this man was claiming, right? Was not justified. That they were punishing him because he never paid $2 million. So that aspect of the allegation that was made in the first email that was sent anonymous also was proven by them to be a damn lie. They said that when they look on the evidence, they have to come to the conclusion that the revocation of the license was fair and just. Talk to me, people. Hmm? Talk to me. Them to set up still. I don't know be able to say. So the Integrity Commission found that them spend a whole heap of time and money running down a damn lie. The only thing now that was left to them is this matter of the 6,000 12 gauge ammunition that was sold to a dead man and to two persons who said they never bought it. It is now this man who for file they saw and who for evidence they saw in the file that they declared was just and fair to have him license revoked. All of them, including him being a trainer, they went that far. I don't even know if him have a firearm to protect himself. Them say him not fit to carry a firearm. Well, at least the business, I don't know if them give him a firearm, if him applied for one. Right? Having seen that in the file, you are going to take that man's word over an employee that nobody has had any reason to believe is corrupt or do anything wrong. And you're going to believe that this man, Brown, and his company were not the ones who was acting illegal. You talk about the FLA cannot show any evidence that that they had any the employee had any permission. You can't show it because there was a catastrophic failure. But why would you take the word of this man who, whatever it was that you saw in that file, that you agree with the Integrity Commission saying license for tech, you're going to take for him word over somebody you have no reason to believe is not an upstanding citizen working for the FLA. Tell me how that works. Unless your real motivation, whether you believe it or not or accept it, or understand that that may be your motivation, was to give yourself something to justify the amount of time and money and manpower to spend or run down a case with a pack of lie. You finish, say, asking people, right? The last time put somebody through a judicial hearing was July 19, 2023. At that point, the case was over. Should have locked it down. But continue. Never investigated the dead man, John Elliott, because he was dead. Never investigated his company and find out why it was that his license was revoked and why it was that it was renewed. Never check that out. Right? The man dead, say, and can't tell, so therefore leave that. Never sought to find Column. Never said try to find Column and try and get a statement out of him in the Integrity Commission's report. Right? There is absolutely no mention anywhere that they had gotten a statement from Column. They cannot show you that they got a statement from Column. So therefore, they were no longer interested in the bribery allegation. They weren't interested. So why did they carry on the investigation so long? 5 years. And came up with nothing. because the person is not reliable. Them say that they did not permit the change. And you never ask them, is there anybody else that is working there that could have called in and asked them to make the change and make the man say, no, I'm a one. Matter of fact, I think he said that he is the only one who must have access to the system. But how you know it's true? Did you call FLA and ask them if anybody else is on them file from this company who can call you and ask you to make changes? They never said that they did. So what you find in this report, in my view, is shoddy investigation. In parts, investigation was good, and in other parts, it was not good. The Integrity Commission, in my view, was seeking to cover the fact that them spent so much damn time on this investigation. And if they did not spend the time, they had halted the investigation at some point. Why did they restart it? Who told them to restart it? And they're not going to pay we any mind, but we have our opinion, because it appears as though a lot of time, resources, and money was spent on a wild goose chase, because they never did their investigation properly in the first place and asked the correct question of the man who them did find out if the man was bribe was offered. How come you not ask Column anything? Oh, that not going to go anywhere. How come you never recommended that this man must be investigated for the 6,000 bullets, whether or not he gave you authority or the FLA employer did something incorrect? Report it. That is your duty. Make the work of them figure out the rest. So this is what I have to say about what went down in this report that was tabled in the Parliament. As you can see, we sometimes have different views from other people. But I want you to think about it. Get the report off the website and read it for yourself, right? And tell me if you disagree with, and I mean, you would have heard and you would have seen, so you can tell me right away if you disagree with what I'm saying, and maybe there's another point of view. Let me know in the comment section. Let me thank you, because I have you. Oh, Lord of mercy, it's 2.5 hours. I have you long enough. I told you that I was not going to talk about the Integrity Commission report, all of it, but me end up I tell you everything. That's more or less that was in it. So let me thank you all for joining me today. I'm going to ask you kindly to share this video. It's long, but believe me, once them start watch them good, right? Because sometimes you watch my own video and I'm not telling them I can't tap, even though I may chat, right? So please share the video. Remember to give the video a thumbs up, and if you have not yet subscribed and you find my information useful and helpful, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to send a little love offering, you can ask. I will tell you how you can send that too. But let me sign off now. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.